The second theme that I want to point out is on page 5. And this theme tells us that when the Jewish people return to our land, we will rebuild the Beit HaMikdash. We will have the holy temple restored in Jerusalem. Today we do not have a holy temple. So the prophets tell us we will have a third temple in Jerusalem. The third theme that I want to describe is that the prophets teach us on the top of page 6. The prophets teach us on the top of page 6 that not only will the Jewish people return to the land of Israel, but the Jewish people will return to the observance of the Torah. So the prophets teach us that it's not only going to be a physical return of the Jewish people, it will be a spiritual return where all the Jewish people will now observe the Torah. Today, in the world today, maybe 15, 20%, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but it's not a majority of the Jewish people today who observe the Torah. It's a small percentage. The prophets teach us that in the future, when we come back to our land, all the Jewish people will observe the Torah. On the bottom of page 6, the next theme that I want to point out is the theme that this will begin a reign of peace throughout the entire world. This is probably one of the major themes that the prophets speak about. Again, we are living today, right now, in a world where there are many wars going on, many people being killed every day. The Jewish people still live in our land today under attack. There are terrorist attacks, there are rockets and missiles being fired at Israel. Today, as we sit here in Toronto, our brothers and sisters living in Israel are in fear of the Iranians building a nuclear bomb and threatening the land of Israel. So the prophets tell us that in the future there will be universal peace. Peace for the Jewish people living in the land of Israel, and peace throughout the entire world. As a matter of fact, the prophets tell us that all of the weapons of war will be destroyed. All the weapons of war will be destroyed. On page 7, we find an amazing additional element of what this paradise will look like. When we study the Bible, we are taught that one of the major purposes of the Jewish people, one of the major reasons why God chose us to be His special people, is so that we should be an or lagoyim, a light to the nations. So in the beginning of Bereshit, in the beginning of Genesis, God says to Abraham, through your people, all of the nations of the world will be blessed. Before God gives the Jewish people the Torah at Mount Sinai, God says that you will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. The Jewish people are supposed to be teachers of the rest of the world. The prophet Isaiah tells us the Jewish people are supposed to be God's witnesses. God's witnesses. We are supposed to testify about God to the world. And so one of the themes in the Bible is that in the future, the world is going to turn to the Jewish people and ask us to teach them about God. It's one of the most amazing prophecies in the Bible. Again, the Bible says that we're supposed to be teachers. We're supposed to be a light. And the Bible tells us that one day the nations will turn to our light. The prophet Zechariah, in chapter 8, verse 23, says that in those days, 10 people from every nation in the world will grab hold of a Jew and ask us to teach them about God. They will say, "We have heard that God is with you. We want you to teach us about God." So one of the major themes in the Bible is that in the future, the entire world, every human being, will come to believe in God. Now this that I've described to you is a pretty amazing picture. The prophets teach us something that is incredible. The prophets are telling us that in the future, the world is going to be a different place. The prophets tell us that in the future, the Jewish people are going to be living in their homeland. They're going to have a temple. They're going to all observe the Torah. We're going to be a light to the nations of the world. We're going to spread the knowledge of God to the rest of the world. And the whole world will become a world where, since everyone is a child of God, everyone in the world is a brother and a sister. We're all brothers and sisters. We're the children of one God, so there will be peace throughout the entire world. It's an amazing, amazing description of a totally transformed world, a utopia, a paradise. Now, the interesting thing is that if you were to read through all of the passages on these pages, what's interesting is that all they describe is a transformed world. They don't mention any particular person who will be playing a special role at that time. So if we are looking for information about the Messiah, it's not going to be in those passages. All of these passages in the Bible just talk about a transformed world, but they don't mention any special person. It's one of the reasons why some people, I believe, mistakenly thought that the Bible only describes a messianic age, but not a Messiah. There are people who believe that the Bible only speaks about a messianic age, but not about a person that we call the Messiah. The reason I believe they are incorrect is because if we turn to page 8, if we look at page 8, we will see that there are, among these hundreds of passages, let me make this clear to you. When it comes to this original collection of material in the Bible, we're talking about probably at least 100, if not more, at least 100 passages that speak about a transformed world. And I describe that in the circles that you see there. The big circle I call A. The A circle is the big circle because here we're talking about, let's say, approximately 100 passages in the Bible. Approximately 100. Probably even more. But inside that big set, it's a set, again, of passages that describe a transformed utopian world, there is a smaller set, what we call the B circle. And those passages in the B circle, they speak about not only a transformed utopian world, they speak about a special person who will be a descendant of King David. He will be a descendant of King David, and he will be the king. He will be the king of the Jewish people at that time. It's important to remember the Bible never calls that person the Messiah. The Bible never calls that person the Messiah. However, we know that person will be a king. As a matter of fact, one of the promises that God made to King David was that any future king has to be a descendant of him. David was told that he will be the origin, the source of all future kings. And so what we have here is a picture in the Bible of approximately 10 passages, about 10 passages that describe this special king who will rule as the leader, as the ruler of the Jewish people when the whole world is transformed into a paradise. When the Jews have come back to their land, when the temple's been rebuilt, when the Jews return to the Torah, when we spread the knowledge of God to the rest of the world, and when the whole world is living in peace, we're told there's going to be a special king from the line of David, and that is the Messiah. That particular Messiah, that particular anointed one, we call the Messiah. We call that anointed one the anointed one. Again, the Bible never calls this person the Messiah, but obviously he is. What the Bible is describing here, very simply, is a special Messiah, a special anointed one, a special king, who will rule when the world has reached its goal, when the world has been transformed into the kind of world it is supposed to be. I'm going to read some of the highlights of what the Bible describes here. And I want you to pay careful attention. In Isaiah chapter 11, the Bible tells us there will be a descendant of Jesse, Yishai. Yishai, we know, was the father of King David. So the Bible tells us there will be a descendant of Yishai, and the Spirit of God will rest upon him. He will have a spirit of wisdom and understanding, and he will be filled with a spirit of the fear of God. He will be a very special person, wise and righteous, and we're told he will judge with righteousness, and we're told that he will be a righteous person and a wise person. And we're told that when he is here, we're told that the wolf will be able to live with the sheep. And the prophet Isaiah here describes all the animals that would never get along living together in peace. And then finally, Isaiah says here in chapter 11, verse 9, they will neither hurt nor destroy in all of my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea. Again, these are the two